The Brew House was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery, but the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewHouse.com.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. I am Toby Motyka, once again in for Bill Pucko, joined this week by JD DeLass, Sports Director at WYSL 92.1 FM. Thank you for being here, JC.
Happy to be here with this crew. I can't wait to hear what comes out of the mouths here. This is going to be great.
You should wait. Let's wait on this. Sorry. Mike Catalana, 13 WHAM Sports.
Good to be back. Good.
And you, Pat Duffy.
Finally, someone who gets it. Finally. Jeez.
Well, let's talk. I mean, the floor really is anybody's here. Deflate-Gate finally feels like it's over. After, 500-something days? Tom Brady's latest appeal of his appeal of an appeal denied again. Is it over now?
It's not over, and here's why. Well, listen, I will believe that he's not playing when they show up in Orchard Park and he doesn't have a uniform on, right? I mean, he can still go to the Supreme Court, and who's to say they don't take this case? Why wouldn't they? I mean, it's high profile, it's easy, it's a chance to take a shot at one of the biggest businesses in America. I mean, listen, I think it's naive to think that there's no shot that this has one more chance in court for Tom Brady, and the way that Tom Brady has the support that he has.
The Supreme Court. Did we think when we were talking about deflated footballs on a cold winter's day in January a year and a half ago that we would end up talking about the Supreme Court?
But you said it already. To over 500 days with this, and we are still talking about it. The amount of money that has been thrown into this case for what? A 4-game suspension. I do agree with Duffy here that Supreme Court, you can't cross that out. Only because it's Tom Brady. He's got high profile, right? I mean, you can't get any more high profile than the Supreme Court. At the end of the day, what is this really going to mean? I'll tell you what, if Buffalo Bills fans are already sketching a W into the column for this game, they should slow way down, man. Patriots still have Gronk, they still have Edelman, they still have all the weapons, they still have their defense. Just because Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever the guy's name is going to be the quarterback, I don't think that matters with the Patriots. I really don't. And 4 games, wouldn't shock me if they go 3-1.
We've seen it before, right?
Yeah, here's what I think about this. I think it's a joke that it went on this long. I think Brady was at fault. I don't think he was totally at fault. I think it should have been a fine and move on in the beginning, but it wasn't. And then it's become this match between the two. And the reason it would end up in the Supreme Court, because it's the way it would be framed to the court. It's not about the deflated footballs. It's not about Tom Brady. It's going to be about collectively bargained power that was given to Roger Goodell. And is this something that they can fight against in terms of the players' union? And I blame the players' union for the entire thing.
Right.
I blame them right from the beginning. These are the guys who gave in on that major point with Roger Goodell. They made him judge, jury, and executioner. I think it's a mistake. I think it was a bad move by them, and they keep going back to this. They believe that they could give that up and then fight it in court and win. That's part of the reason why I want to see them lose this, because I don't want that to happen. I want them to collectively bargain it the next time, give up something else, get that power away from Goodell, because I think he has too much power now.
That's Troy Vincent, isn't it, Mike? That's the guy who did it. A guy who played in the league, really should have known better. I'm surprised he's not getting more heat on this.
But I think that's why they believe they could just, we'll just take him to court. We'll fight it. We'll appeal it. And it works sometimes, but it doesn't work enough.
But, I mean, you bring up Troy Vincent real quick. I mean, what do you expect a guy who played in the NFL for 12 years to do? I mean, listen, these guys aren't lawyers, right? They don't have a law background. He's an NFL football player, and he's very bright, and I like Troy Vincent a lot. But the NFL can take advantage of these guys, and they know that.
Well, this is why they're playing without guaranteed money. You know, they throw other things out there in front of them, and the things that they should be going for, they haven't. Now, we'll see what happens the next time they go with the collective bargaining agreement. But the NFL is the biggest sport, and in terms of taking care of their players and players having power, they're fourth. They're fourth in that way.
Bold prediction time goes to the Supreme Court, 4-4 tie. We're talking about this again.
Yeah, no, you're right.
In a few months. Hooray! All right, let's talk baseball. Second half of the season coming up next on the Rochester Press Box.
The Hillside family of agencies works with youth and families on their own terms, helping them pursue their own goals, whether at home, work, school, or one of the Hillside campuses, offering encouragement and commitment, standing with families, helping to create a healthy future.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This segment brought to you by the Hillside family of agencies. Guys, baseball's All-Star break just ended. We are officially in the second half of the season mode where things finally sort of start to matter a little bit more. General thoughts on what we should expect from this season the rest of the way? Are the teams that have been great going to stay great? Are the Yankees going to come up? What do we think?
Well, hopefully we get some people paying attention. I don't think you can find anybody who even knows who has the best record in baseball right now. San Francisco Giants.
Yeah.
What? I mean, nobody knows what's going on. When Kevin Durant is knocking baseball off, I mean, just not even Kevin Durant, NBA off-season, free agent stuff, is headlines. Baseball, All-Star game, was a blink. Nobody even knew it. I mean, it was here, it was there, all that was kind of cool, gone. I think baseball needs to do a lot more about getting themselves up and on the front page, and with that, get some pennant races going and find out, I mean, the Cubs they were a great story, and then they lost, 16 of their last 21, something like that?
A lot, yeah.
I'll tell you the team to watch, Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
And they have a great pitching staff. They got a kid at Syracuse, Trey Turner, who's been up for, I think, like a week. They bring that kid up. He can play shortstop. He can play center field. Gives him another bat to go with Harper. I think the Nationals are going to be the team to watch in the second half. And when do the Yankees start trading away some of their big names? That's going to be the next one.
That was the next question. I noticed you didn't mention the Yankees as the team to watch. Are they about to go on a fire sale? Carlos Beltran, maybe one or two of those relievers. Are they on their way out of town?
I would do that in a heartbeat. I mean, that team is not. They're not going to contend. They're not built that way. They don't have the depth in the pitching. They've got strength in the end of the bullpen where they can make some moves there. And Beltran is having a fantastic year. I think he's very tradable at the moment. To your point about the Major League Baseball needing to get more attention, I said this to you guys before. I think Major League Baseball has become a strong regional sport. And in those regions, in those specific markets, I think it is doing well. I think it's lost the whole national appeal.
You're absolutely right. Like, I was watching the All-Star game this week, and I did not realize how far baseball had fallen down my list of priorities until I started watching him do the lineups. And I recognized 35%, 40% of the names that I saw out there, and these are the best players in ball. Let me put it this way. The NFL Pro Bowl, which is down to its fourth and fifth string guys, I knew absolutely everybody, right? Sure. I knew nobody who was playing in that game.
But you are a huge hockey guy, and you know the rest of the league. But there are a lot of people, big Sabres fans, they love watching the Sabres. They don't really know the league. But the league does really well in Buffalo, and that helps the NHL.
It's a good point. I guess what annoys me is everyone knows that hockey's a regional sport at this point, and you accept it as a hockey fan. I hate to hear these baseball fans that stand up and bang their chest. Baseball was once America's pastime. It still is. It's not. It's become exactly what you said it was. And that's not to say I don't like going to ball games. I'll watch a ball game when it's on television, but the season is so long. The games can get so drawn out. I can't do it anymore.
That's partly how baseball can survive, even if it loses that national appeal, right? It's also just a summer sport. It's a night out at the ballpark.
Sure.
They're still going to make money, right?
But the difference is, we all know this, whatever sport you like, if there's a NFL game on, even those awful Thursday night games a lot of times, people will watch. They'll pay attention. Maybe it's because of fantasy football. Maybe it's because of something else. I don't know. But baseball, even the World Series, depending on the matchup, people don't lock in like they used to. It is much more. When your team's in it, you're in it. When they're not, you let it go.
And look at it locally, too. Rochester Red Wings. People go out. It's a night out.
Yep.
The food and the fun and the mascots and all the different things that go on. Are people aware that the Red Wings are in a race for the divisional title and hoping for a wild card spot and all that stuff? I don't think that factors in at all. And I think that some of that has gone now to the Major League level.
You're 100% right. And I would always say, I think it even applies to the Amherst. People in the minor leagues go to see the home team. And a lot of times, I almost want to stop fans sometimes going to the game and say, do you know who the Amherst are playing tonight? Or do you know who the Red Wings are playing?
Yeah.
And because that's not the focus. I still think in the majors, you know the difference. I've got tickets to the Yankees tonight. They're playing the Red Sox. Is very different. But it's starting to get that way a little bit, where it's night at the ballpark more than it is the matchups.
Dollar dog night.
Yes, it still pays.
Like it or not, coming up next.
As we go to break, it is time for the Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning Trivia Question of the Week. When you're searching for a local heating and air conditioning contractor, look no further than one of the most reliable teams in the area at Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning. Is called Turnbull at 343-2005. As we come back from the break, time for the answer to the Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning Trivia Question of the Week. When you're searching for a local heating and air conditioning contractor, look no further than one of the most reliable teams in the area at Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning. Just call 343-2005. See New York in a whole new way. Amtrak is offering a 15% discount for all travel inside New York State and to Montreal. Visit Amtrak.com for the See New York discount. Safe, comfortable, affordable, and easy. Amtrak. Enjoy the journey.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This segment brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Amtrak, enjoy the journey. Guys, like it or not, Tim Duncan retiring. The big fundamental, is he the best player at his position that we've seen?
You know what? It's so hard to start getting into these best power forward ever, top 5 ever, because each era played a different style of basketball, different type of basketball. But for his era, for this time, he's certainly the best power forward. The thing I love about Duncan, 19 seasons, one team. There's only one other guy that can say that went more than 19 seasons. That's Kobe. Right. Kobe did 20 seasons with the Lakers. But 19 seasons, one team won 5 NBA titles, and you never heard about him in the offseason. Right. Shocking in the NBA that doesn't happen these days. Class, just hard-working type of guy. Love Tim Duncan, great career, and he's walking away at the right time because you could see at the end of last year, Spurs were starting to use him kind of as a reserve type character. That's not who he is.
And he's boring, but in a good way.
In a good way.
All right, so I will say this. I love everything about Tim Duncan, the way he played. I love the way he played. I love the way he adapted to his teammates. I love the way he was coachable. I love all that about him. I'm just happy every pro athlete is not like Tim Duncan.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why I say this, because if that was the case, I don't think people would pay as much attention to sports. There is a place and a revered place for a guy like Duncan. Awesome player and all. We can't have every guy to be so quiet. You mentioned Kobe, 20 years in one place. Couldn't be more different than Kobe. Kobe was a personality, was out there all the time, wasn't always the best teammate, had his issues with coaches, but he's what helps the NBA grow. And I love Duncan. I love him. I'd love him if he was on my team. But in the league, he's almost forgotten because
but you
he's so
never
boring.
have to worry about that, Mike. Not in the NBA. You never have to worry about more guys being
like
Duncan.
You're right. Yeah.
That's it.
No, I think there's
he
a
is
lot
the
of
rarity.
But I think there's a lot of really good guys in the NBA. I think it gets an unfair rap from a lot of people. I don't think there's very many problems off the court in the NBA as a lot of people would perceive there is. But there's also, you want a little person. I mean, hey, Kevin Durant, not the most exciting guy in the world. He looks like Mr. Hollywood compared to Tim Duncan, and he's never had any problems.
Speaking of Hollywood, Mike, like it or not, a guy like David Ortiz, designated hitter, could he win MVP?
Sure, he can win MVP in a year, and sure, he can make it to the Hall of Fame because he's been that kind of player. It's funny. David Ortiz is a revered Boston athlete, and he should be. He's won championships for them. He's been a great player. But it almost seems like we're trying to force him being into a revered guy around all of baseball. I've never felt that he's that guy. I think he's an MVP guy, but I've never felt that he's like baseball fans guy. They're trying to push this retirement thing and the way fans are going to respond. He's not Derek Jeter. He's not Cal Ripken. He's never been that guy. And he's a tremendous home run hitter. There's still a little cloud over him that it stays away a little bit. He did test positive one time. He's been involved with other people in that way, but not even for that reason. I felt him as being a big Boston athlete who is an excellent player, but I've never felt him as being a big-time baseball guy.
There's one consistency in all of the success that the Boston Red Sox have had over the last 15 years, and that's David Ortiz. He is the face of those World Series championships. He's the face of the curse breaking, and he's done it, with the exception of that positive test that showed up, with no controversy. How do you not love that man? He should be more revered than he actually is.
Real quick, like it or not, Hope Solo skewering the Professional Women's Soccer League, the NWSL.
Don't even get me started on this thing. Like, okay, my wife's a doctor, so I am all for equal pay for women and men, right? But somebody want to explain to Hope Solo how business works? About how maybe, possibly, Major League Women's Soccer isn't a $1 million a year business for these franchises, and that you're not doing this for you, Hope Solo, right? You have your 6-figure contracts and endorsements, and you're going to be famous and everything's fine. You're blazing a trail for the people that are coming after you. You're Billie Jean King for women's soccer. So maybe 20 years from now, there will be a league that can pay women to play professionally, like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell had to blaze a trail, like the guys in the 20s and 30s and 40s for the NFL had to do it. You look like you're whining. If these teams, franchises were making millions of dollars a year, you absolutely have a gripe, but they're not. So you don't, so stop.
He's making a great point because I was thinking about it. One, I heard Rick Mahorn on the radio saying his first pro contract in the NBA, he made $60,000 a year. So you look, and even in that period of time what's happened, and you go back to the old NBA where guys had, like it was in the old NFL, where guys had off-season jobs to make it, and you look back at what it's become. I'm not saying women's soccer is ever going to become that, but it could certainly become a lot bigger where they could make a lot more money.
Wilt Chamberlain scored his 100 points at Hershey, Pennsylvania on a barnstorming game.
Yeah.
Be quiet, Hope Solo.
Unfinished business coming up next.
The Rochester Press Box Stat of the Week, brought to you by Cariglio's Pizza, with 5 locations serving the Rochester area. Visit carigliospizza.com today. Keep on track with Dunkin' Donuts fruit smoothies, made with low-fat yogurt and real fruit, blended into feel-good flavors like new wild berry. America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by Genesee Brew House. This segment brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Unfinished business. Pat, finish it.
So it's July, so let's talk hockey. The Buffalo Sabres just finished up their development camp, and they have a whole bunch of young guys, and everyone's been talking about it, and it's fantastic. What I want to talk about really quick is what could be leaving after this season. Brian Giunta, Rochester native, Aquinas graduate, no big deal. He has 1 year left on his contract. And this could be the last year that he plays in the NHL, and he's going to do it for his hometown Buffalo Sabres. Do yourself a favor. Take some time and make sure you go watch who could be the greatest athlete to ever come out of Rochester, maybe with the exception of Abby Wambach. Captain of an Original Six team, winner of a Stanley Cup, and a guy who could not be any nicer off the ice. So when that season comes around, make sure you take a couple of nights, pop on MSG, and watch Brian Giunta make Rochester proud, maybe for one last time.
He's still very good, but do you think people maybe have forgotten just how great he was in his heyday?
I mean, he's transitioned to a checking role really well on that line. But yes, I absolutely agree. They compare the Brian Giunta of 12 years ago to the Brian Giunta of today, and that's just not fair.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, great player. Brought a cup back to Rochester. JC?
Rory McIlroy came out this week, said he will not be watching golf at the Olympics because he's going to be watching the sports that matter, and he got slammed for it, and I have no idea why. I agree with him. Golf at the Olympics is like the Greenbrier Classic or whatever tournament you want to call it, because they're doing a stroke play tournament at a golf course that they've never played at before. The Olympics screwed this up. They should have made it a team competition. Do it like your member guest best ball at the club over the weekend, something where there was a team aspect. All this is 72 holes, stroke play. We can see that every weekend right now. The Olympics is supposed to be something special, different, elite. None of the top guys are going to be there, or at least not the top 4, including McIlroy. And I would agree with him on this point. The Olympics could have been something special for golf. It's not. And just like Rory McIlroy, I'm probably not going to watch it either.
First of all, the Greenbrier Classic is a really good one.
I know. Maybe two better.
But here's
better than the Olympics.
Here's a bad year for that. It's a Ryder Cup year. These guys are playing. Oh, and by the way, it's Rio with dead bodies washing up and worrying about. Yeah, what's
fine.
that a problem? So, I don't think they're going to be doing it. All right, hey, we're getting set. Training camp is starting for the Buffalo Bills, and this is a huge year in many ways. And a lot of times you'll see people review quarterback situations for teams. Right now, you got to say with the Bills, it's tenuous at best. But here's what can make it work. Tyrod Taylor. He is the guy who can absolutely get this done for the franchise. Because when you look around the NFL and they say, how is this team at a quarterback? How is this team at a quarterback? I don't care who's 2 and 3. If the number one guy is a star, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, whoever it is, your team is in good shape. Look, EJ hasn't really shown he can be competent at backup, but we don't know about third string. But in this case, if Tyrod can prove he's the number one guy, you can at least take a breath. Yeah, they need help behind him, but that is what makes a team good. I have faith in the kid. I think we can look for him to take an incremental step this season, but that's going to be the difference in this franchise. If you've got one of those quarterbacks you can win, Tyrod has a chance to be one of those guys.
We know what's coming after that. Money.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrod
Hey, that's
plays
fine.
well. Yep.
I think they'd be thrilled to pay him if he proves he deserves the money.
All right, we shall see. Guys, that's going to do it for us. Mike, thank you as always. Pat, thank you as always. And JC, thank you for joining us this week. That'll do it for us, and thank you for joining us on the Rochester Press Box.